ARD eligibility in Pennsylvania. Do you qualify? After a DUI arrest in Pennsylvania, ARD is usually the first thing people search, and for good reason. It can be the difference between a damaging conviction and a chance to keep this case from following you for years. But here's what most people don't find out until it's too late. Getting into ARD is not automatic. Small facts, a passenger's age, a refusal, a prior case from years ago, a detail buried in an affidavit can change everything. I'm Sean Quinlan, Pennsylvania DUI attorney based in Camp Hill. This is the real breakdown of ARD eligibility in Pennsylvania. What it takes to qualify, what can block you, and what happens if you're denied. What ARD actually is. Let's start with what ARD actually does, because it's widely misunderstood. ARD, Accelerated Rehabilitative Disposition, is Pennsylvania's pretrial diversion program for certain DUI offenders. If you're accepted and complete the program, you can avoid a DUI conviction. After successful completion, you can usually pursue expungement of the case. Think of it like a detour before you drive straight into the worst part of a traffic jam. You still have to deal with the case. You still have obligations, fees, classes, and often a license consequence, but you can come out the other side without a criminal DUI conviction on your record. That matters for your record, your insurance, your job, and critically, how any future DUI would be treated under Pennsylvania law. But ARD is not a magic eraser. It doesn't automatically restore your license, stop insurance consequences, or make every employer or licensing concern disappear. It's damage control, not a full reset. And as I'll explain in a minute, it's not a free pass for a future arrest either. The basic eligibility framework. Here's with a short answer on who qualifies. ARD is aimed at first-time, nonviolent DUI offenders, but qualifying is never automatic. The DA's office reviews the case and has real discretion over who gets offered ARD. Local practice matters, sometimes as much as the statewide rules do. That county-by-county difference is real in central Pennsylvania. A case in Dauphin County, Cumberland County, York County, or Lancaster County can turn on local screening policies just as much as the general law. So if you heard from a friend that every first DUI gets ARD, set that aside. It's simply not how it works. Prior record. ARD is mainly for a first DUI. A prior DUI conviction or a prior ARD disposition for DUI within Pennsylvania's lookback period can block admission. And older cases aren't always ancient history. If a prior offense falls inside the lookback window, it counts. Even an old, out-of-state DUI can become a problem if it shows up in a background check and was never addressed at the start. Broader criminal history. Violent offenses, certain recent charges, or facts showing a pattern of risky conduct can make the prosecutor less willing to approve ARD. The DUI charge is the front door, but what's behind it matters too. Facts that can block or complicate ARD. Here's where cases that look straightforward on the surface can get complicated fast. Accident, injury, or death. Cases involving serious bodily injury or a fatal crash are treated very differently. ARD may be unavailable entirely. Even where the facts fall short of that, an accident makes admission significantly harder. Property damage on a busy road, a chain reaction crash, any fact suggesting the risk spread beyond your own vehicle, those details matter to a prosecutor screening an ARD application. Child passengers. Passenger under 14 in the vehicle is a major eligibility concern. This is one of the details that can push a case into a much less forgiving category, regardless of how otherwise clean the facts are. High BAC. A very high blood alcohol level doesn't always bar ARD, but it often means tougher license consequences and closer scrutiny during the screening process. Drug DUI. Marijuana, prescription medication, or controlled substance DUI cases can qualify in some counties, but toxicology issues tend to complicate the screening and may affect what their program looks like if you're accepted. Refusal. Refusing a breath or blood test doesn't automatically bar ARD either, but refusal cases come with a separate PennDOT suspension issue that can hit hard even if the criminal side goes into diversion. Getting into ARD doesn't solve the refusal suspension. Those are two separate tracks. How ARD eligibility is actually decided. The rulebook only gets you so far. In real life, ARD involves an application, a records check, a review of the police paperwork, and a decision from the DA's office. Your criminal complaint, affidavit of probable cause, driving history, lab results, and prior record all have to line up. If something's missing, inconsistent, or misread at the screening stage, your case can be evaluated the wrong way before anyone catches it. The prosecutor has discretion, which means the office gets a significant say in who gets offered ARD. That doesn't mean the decision is random. It means local standards and local attitudes matter in ways that statewide rules don't fully capture. Some counties are more flexible with borderline facts. Some are stricter about accidents, child passengers, high BAC results, or old prior offenses. That's why comparing your case to someone else's is almost always useless. Same charge, different county, different facts, different outcome. And if you lived in another state before Pennsylvania, an old offense from years back can suddenly become relevant at the screening stage. That's the catch with ARD screening. Tiny paperwork details can turn into major problems if nobody catches them early. What ARD actually requires if you're accepted? Being accepted into ARD is not walking away from the case. You're trading a conviction track for a supervised program track, and that program has real requirements. Supervision period, usually several months to a year depending on county rules and case facts. Alcohol highway safety school, required in most cases. Drug and alcohol evaluation, standard. Any treatment recommendations that come out of that drug and alcohol evaluation are usually mandatory to follow. Community service, required in some cases. Fees and costs. Program fees, court costs, supervision costs, class fees, evaluation fees, treatment expenses, and possibly restitution if there was property damage. ARD is not cheap. But for most people, the long-term cost of a DUI conviction, higher insurance, job problems, future sentencing exposure is significantly worse. Miss enough of these obligations and you can lose the deal. The program requires follow-through, and counties track compliance. The license suspension misconception. This is one of the most important things to understand about ARD, and one of the most commonly misunderstood. Avoiding a conviction does not automatically mean keeping your license. Under Pennsylvania DUI law, ARD can still come with a license suspension, depending on the tier of the DUI charged and whether you refuse testing. Lower tier first offenses may avoid suspension in some situations. Higher BAC cases and refusal cases often do not. So if driving to work, making medical appointments, or maintaining driving privileges for your job is critical, you cannot assume ARD solves that automatically. The license side of a DUI case runs through PennDOT on a separate track from the criminal court side. ARD resolution on the criminal side doesn't necessarily fix what's happening on the PennDOT side. What ARD doesn't protect: CDL and professional license. ARD helps, sometimes significantly, but it doesn't guarantee protection in every area of your life. CDL holders. ARD does not save commercial drivers from the special rules that govern CDL disqualification. Even without a DUI conviction in the traditional sense, a CDL can be affected. If your livelihood depends on a commercial driving, the analysis is different from the start and needs to be treated that way. Licensed professionals, nurses, teachers, healthcare workers, contractors, these professionals may still have reporting obligations to employers or licensing boards, even with an ARD disposition. ARD is almost always better than a conviction for professional purposes, but better than a conviction is not the same as no problem. Future DUI exposure. Here's the thing most people don't hear clearly enough. ARD can still count against you for DUI sentencing purposes during the applicable look-back period. If you're arrested for a DUI again, that prior ARD disposition may mean your new case is treated as a second offense, with mandatory minimums that brings. ARD is a second chance, not a free reset. What happens if you're denied ARD? A denial is serious, but it's not the end of the road. If you're denied ARD, your case stays on the standard criminal track. That still leaves room to fight. Can you challenge the denial? In limited situations, a denial can be reviewed. But ARD is discretionary, and courts generally give prosecutors significant room, unless the decision clearly violates law or policy. That makes a direct challenge difficult in most cases. The practical response is usually more useful than the theoretical one. If an eligibility issue caused the denial, and it can be addressed, address it. If the denial is based on a prior record question, a refusal issue, or a county policy matter, Understanding the exact reason matters for what comes next. If ARD is off the table entirely, the case can still be negotiated. A reduction in charges, a challenge to the traffic stop, a motion attacking the blood test, problems with the chain of custody, machine calibration issues, implied consent warning errors, or medical explanations for test results. These are the alternative paths. ARD is valuable. It's not the only way to protect your record and your future. If the door to ARD is closed, that shifts the focus to where the prosecution's case has weaknesses, and in a lot of cases, those weaknesses are real. ARD can be one of the best outcomes available after a Pennsylvania DUI arrest, but it's not available to everyone. It's not automatic for everyone, and it doesn't solve every problem, even when you get in. The smartest first move is to pull out your charging paperwork, your penned out notices, and every document tied to the arrest, and have the facts reviewed before anything is assumed about eligibility. Prior DUI dates, past ARD, a refusal notice, the age of a passenger, or the wording of an affidavit can decide how much room you actually have. If you've been charged with a DUI in Pennsylvania and want to understand whether ARD is actually on the table for your case, reach out. Free consultation, no pressure, link is in the description. Subscribe for more straight talk on Pennsylvania DUI law. See you in the next video.